What's up, everyone? Good evening. Got some thoughts and goals to share. Today's going to be about Mandy, which stars Nicolas Cage. It's a 2018 film by director Panos Cosmatos. Something like that. Let's see if we can read his name. I don't know. They don't put it on here. Weird guy. This is his second movie. Killed it. Knocked it out of the park. This is a great film. I describe it as an acid horror film. Like, it's a revenge story. Nicolas Cage is, and the first part's going to be no spoilers, so I'm just giving a broad overview of the movie. But Nicolas Cage just has to get revenge on a death cult. And it's frightening, scary, horrifying, quiet, subtle, loud, great color, horrifying, dark. It's from the 80s, at least it feels like it. Not a ton of dialogue. Great revenge story. Satisfying. Unsatisfying. You feel uncomfortable. You feel kind of creepy. You get those, like, goosebumps. Like, it's unnerving. It's a great movie. I would give it a 5 out of 5. You're gonna hear me say it a lot because it's the movies I want to like review like this. So that's overall. I would not recommend this to most people. You kind of gotta know that you're gonna like this movie. I mean, you already know right now based on my description whether you're gonna like it or you've already seen it and you like it or you're gonna hate it. You're probably right in what you're thinking right now. But I want to take this second part. This is kind of the process I did with It Follows. I want to just go through a bunch of screen grabs and kind of just talk through the movie and talk through significant stuff, like what happened. And I'm not going to just go through the entire movie. I want to talk about cool parts of it and give my input and just why I liked it and give further context and other like free association of what other things I'm going to be thinking of and how I connect it to other movies and just beautiful screen grabs, things like that. If you don't like it, you wouldn't be watching anyway. This is like my creative project that I don't do it for the views necessarily, although I do want the interaction. So if you're watching this, tell me what you're liking, what you're not liking, and let's talk. So let's see. All right, let's start. So the beginning of this movie, spoilers here on out. Okay, we're going to be going through the entire movie with screen grabs. But if you watch this, it still doesn't ruin the movie for you, and you can go back and watch it afterwards. So, yeah, for whatever that's worth. The movie opens up in the forest, lumberjack, Nicolas Cage, tearing down. He's just hard at work. He's like a blue-collar worker. And here, we'll go like this. And the song that plays, here, one sec. Okay, upon further research, the song opens up. It's called Starless by King Crimson, which is like this great band I've been listening to for like 10 years. I mean, they're just awesome. And so to see their song, which is such a good song, played in its like 8-minute entirety at the beginning of this movie, perfect. I mean, the way it opened up, it was awesome. So we start off with this screenshot, and then we kind of zoom in on, we don't really know what's happening. Kind of really takes its time with the opening. We see Nicolas Cage in bed with his wife, and their house. It's a lot of these close-up shots. The establishment shots are kind of just informing you of how this movie is going to be. Just very strange, very odd. We've got the Cosmos. This reminds me of another movie that has Nicolas Cage in it. I went on a Nicolas Cage bender recently with watching a bunch of his weird, just strange movies he's been doing the past like 5 years or so. One of them was called Color Out of Space. And that's a Lovecraftian horror film that wasn't that scary, but it was kind of fantastical. And this shot just reminds me of that movie's about a meteor coming from space and landing on some guy's farm, and just weird stuff starts happening. It highly recommend it. It's on Shudder. If you're gonna sign up for Shudder, you got Mandy, you got this movie, and then you got Color Out of Space. Both two just good Nicolas Cage movies I would highly recommend. But yeah, with the music and just the vibes of this movie, the way it opens, I'll speak for myself. I was very like just drawn in. It was like, take me on this journey that we're about to go on. You could see that the film I really like this aesthetic. I don't know how they got, this is obviously a wide shot. It's in a lake, like a canyon, but how do they get the film quality to look like that? And, the colors are distorted. Whatever they're doing, I like it. Yeah, it's just great shots. Really interesting. Just the water looks fascinating here, and kind of an airy quality. Like, I remember very much, you feel like you're taking drugs. That's a common theme throughout this movie. Like, in particular, like acid or something. You could see, I mean, look at all this textured like patterns. Yeah, and this is what's happening at the beginning of this movie is their version of establishing the relationship that he has with his wife. They live in a cabin. They are in bed. They read together, or she's reading a book, talking to him. They go on a boat and they're fishing and they're hanging out, spending time, because eventually she's going to get captured. And so he loves her. This is his motivations for the rest of the film. Just a creepy shot. This whole movie is like full of shots like this where, I mean, that speaks for itself. A lot of lying down, like these horizontal shots where figures are laying down and the camera is set like this. We could see the wife here. She's the one the movie's named after, which is Mandy. And then later on, you'll see the cult leader, who's the antagonist, face the opposite way, but still laying down in this horizontal shot. And again, with the color distortion. More relationship establishing shots, very, lit from the background with kind of the warmer light, and then the cooler lights up here with the blues and the maroons and reds and pinks. This is a color scheme I really, really like. This is one of the very few normal looking shots, because we have the natural greens, as well as the yellows and oranges, very 80s vibe, late 70s. She's got Motley Crue cut off tee. She's got she's reading like a fantasy from the 80s, like death metal inspired album artwork, like just all these themes. Very good for showing, not telling, what kind of character she is, and then by extension Nicolas Cage, our main character, what he's into and why he likes her and what their relationship is like together. Yeah. Zoom in on her eyes. It's a big thing. Just a lot of shots, very close-ups of faces, eyes, reactions of people. It's a big thing in drug movies and drug culture. Are their eyes dilated? What are they looking at? And that's very prominent later on. So because it's prominent later on in the movie, you want to get these establishing shots while you have the beginning of what normal people kind of look like, and then you call back to it later on. This is when we stay with Mandy and kind of discover what she's kind of curious. She goes for a walk in the woods and starts to walk along this trail, and that's her first encounter with the cult member bad guys. The whole screen turns to red, which signifies that, like, if you think back, like Disney movies, remember when like the Lion King, when it was like towards the end of the movie, they had like this red with the exciting soundtrack and music over the top during exciting scenes, like when the Lion King, the father dies, and then the bad guy, I don't remember, the Scar, I think, yeah, so that whole scene was like tinged in red, and it's the same thing here going on with this movie. She's got a Black Sabbath t-shirt on. I love that part because I've been getting like really into Black Sabbath kind of after I saw this movie. I just kind of want to explore metal bands from the 70s and 80s that had a fantasy aesthetic, and yeah, I liked all that, like the wizards and dragons and dark magic and all that shit was like, it's really fun, and it all fits together, and it's in the past, so it's a nostalgia for a time I wasn't even alive for, if that makes sense. So this part was pretty like terrifying and scary and just creepy, but again, no, there were not a whole lot of obvious jump scares. There's a lot of creeping feeling, like working up to the point, and then when they do jump scare you, it's much later on, and it's the right time for it. So we see the cult members coming out of this fog with the headlights and on this path, and this dark evening time of, just so stylized. I loved it. Reminds me of like Terminator. Okay, this is one of the cult members. She kind of draws in Mandy and says, you can trust me. And then this is actually the antagonist in the first scene that we really get with him, and he's really excellently played. Like, he reminds me a lot of the guy who played Bill in Kill Bill. It's not the same actor, but because that guy is actually dead for a couple years now. But this guy, just a commanding presence while laying down, and that was crazy to me. It's just, he's so nonchalant, and he calls people over, and they kind of come like this, and they kneel down and attend to him, and he doesn't get up, he doesn't exert a lot of energy, but he exudes a control, like almost like a mind control over his members of this cult. And it's not a lot of people. It's very intimate. It's like Charles Manson and the Manson family. A lot of vibes like the Mansons. Here's more of his members. They're in the TV. They're watching TV in the other room. The way this shot is angled, it's like you're in one room and you can feel behind you, like, here's where the camera is. You can feel behind the camera that the cult leader is there, and his needs are getting attended to, and he's kind of shouting, he's barking orders, and these guys are in the other room. They're separate. The focus is not on them, but the director has shown us what they're doing, which is kind of loafing around. It's not the same as the cult leader loafing around. I mean, nobody's doing anything, but it's a different energy. And that is really well, put across by this kind of shot. Here we've got a store. This is one of the other scenes that's pretty normal. You could see the color is distorted, but it's daytime. You've got blue skies, the white clouds, the darker brown for the wood, the green for the nature. One of the few scenes that almost from here on out, it just gets full on extra stylized. And so this is an establishing shot for when the cult leaders roll up on this area. Yeah, they come out at night. They're like from a nightmare. This reminds me of almost like that movie Hellraiser. We're going to see a lot more shots like that. Yep. Oh, yep, there we go. Okay, back to inside. For some reason, Nicolas Cage has a tiger shirt on. I don't know why, but it just kind of fits with his character. Very normal, just eating dinner. And it's the 80s, so of course you're watching TV. Really cozy couch. And, really cozy just house. It feels very lived in. These feel like a real couple and real people. And of course, contrast that with outside. You've got these dark figures dressed in leather. Very just horrifying figures. Yep. For some reason, we do the blue twinge instead of red saturation. Horizontal. Face the other way. Zoom in on her face. You could see, the facial features. I guess her pupils are very dilated here. Yep, this is just scary imagery. Oh, this is after they've captured her. So the cult leaders, at first they were driving by, they saw her, and then later on the cult leader said, I want that girl that, the woman that we passed by. And so just by looking at her, and so the cult members went and grabbed her. And so here she is, and they fed her a bunch of acid, and then they actually, here, we'll go to the next one. They stung her with this huge, insane insect that was just, I hate insects. I hate bugs. So this scene was horrifying to me, and they grab her, and she's on acid, or she's messed up on some sort of hallucinogen, and they inject her with this thing, and that's the stuff of nightmares. If there's anything like that, this is a really good, just makes you squeamish. This scene very Jesus-like figure with his arms outraised, the robe on, people sitting by, they're all drugged out. This is there's a little bit of a trope, but the horrifying hippie. You're just sitting around doing nothing, taking drugs, and following someone, a maniac. And so this scene was crazy because they let the exposure for the film, they just let it go by. So it gets very, you start to see trails like you would if you were on acid. If you wave your hand, you start to see the trail of, and that was really well done because he's moving, but he's moving a little bit, and his eye, his face stays in focus, and then he moves around, and there's just, the trails are very, they take forever to catch up, and with the color distortion that we've already seen throughout the film, yeah, this is a great scene. All I'm going to talk about is how awesome this movie is. It's going to be like this. Strap in. Yep, that's what I was talking about. Super dilated pupils. They hang Nicolas Cage up to dry, and he has to watch his wife get burned, and her body get burned. And they tie up his arms and legs and his hands, and he's got thorns. Yeah, kind of interesting. They put some animation in here just to throw it up a bit, which is good. It was good because they kind of dark imagery, and then putting in the animation livens it up and injects some energy. And you kind of need some to get through this movie, because there's a lot of like in horror movies, it's good. It actually works really well when they do laughter and comedy with the horror part. Like Scream does this really well. Get Out did this really well. A couple other films. And, you know, this type of movie you wouldn't want to put humor into. It just wouldn't work. But putting a little bit of animation like they did gives it the same feeling. This scene is great. It's just one of Nicolas Cage, you know, acting like a crazy person. And if you just let him do his thing, he delivers. He grabs like a whole bottle of vodka or like booze or something, like some sort of liquor, and he's like on the toilet in his tidy whities, and he's drinking and he's crying because his wife died, and he's just acting crazy. And it's all one shot, and I really appreciate the one shots. Like, one shot, let the actors do the work, let the emotions come out, and let them overact. Like, that's entertaining. It's a very different, weird movie because they left a scene like this in there. And I like movies where they do that. He goes and sees his friend, this creepy looking guy in a trailer, and he asks him for weapons, and then he starts to create his own weapons. Yep. Very like just metal scene, like putting together your own axe and going out and fighting. It's fantastical and awesome. For some reason, he's wearing a 44 shirt. I used to have a shirt like this. It's just like from an old style. Like, they don't make shirts like this anymore. And if they do, they're kind of throwback. It's not the same. So there he is making his axe. He's driving in his car. You see the red twinge all around. This is when the action starts, and it just ramps up from here. So he goes in the forest and starts picking off some of the bad guys dressed in leather. Yeah, he starts killing them. There's a chase scene. Oh, I love this. Look at this blue streak. They leave stuff in the film. So there's the blue. You know, the colors are so distorted that it creates things like this, and I just loved it. He gets captured or something, and he's in this horrifying, like, saw-like chamber, and he fights his way out. Very vibrant colors. Yeah, this movie's phenomenal. He finds his way out here and then gets into a chainsaw fight, which is just badass. Covered in blood. Oh yeah. This character reminds me of, I watched, in preparation for this video, I watched Over the Black Rainbow, and I could only get like 30 or 40 minutes into it. It's by the same director as Mandy. It was his first film, and Mandy is significantly better in my opinion. The first one was kind of like a slow burn, and I just couldn't really get into it. Maybe I'll finish it one day, but the bad guy from that first movie, I think, is the same actor as this guy, and he plays a very similar character. He's kind of a crazed chemist, and he's like, he has a lion. No, he has a tiger in a cage, and he's hopped up on acid. He's making acid, and his eyes are like super dilated. And Nicolas Cage comes in. You can see right here, these are the tabs that they dip. Like, there's a vat of water, which is the lysergic something acid, LSD, and he puts these tabs in, and the entire time it's like sinking through his skin. So this guy's tripping like all the time. It's such an interesting like you have like chemists and alchemy from fantasy, like medieval ages, but this is the modern day version of what he does. So I don't have a screenshot of the tiger, but that was really cool that there's just for some reason a tiger in a cage, and he lets him out, and the tiger just kind of walks past Nicolas Cage. Yeah, you could see it maybe right here. And this guy's like freaked out, like, what are you doing? And Nicolas Cage leaves him alone. Look at that. What a crazy, crazy shot. He looks crazy. Looks great. Good makeup. Yeah, it's got these like centipede, millipede things. Just gross. Takes one of the four-wheelers, runs through a shaft or something, like a mine shaft. Very like fantasy setting, like they're entering into a new world as he gets deeper and deeper into the woods. More animation. It's Mandy and the green light. This kind of reminds me of really old the Cauldron, the Emerald Cauldron. Is that what it was called? It was like Snow White, but like really old animation from like the 40s or 50s. Or what's that other one? The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings, but the old animated versions. That's what this style reminds me of. So for some reason he has to go to this bottom of this ravine, like this cliff, like almost like the depths of hell, to find like this ziggurat or like this temple of some sort. Reminds me of the temple in Midsummer. And that's where he goes in there and finds the cult leader. This is really cool. They had like a sword fight with chainsaws. Picks up like one of these ancient books. The entire time I love that Nicolas Cage like doesn't give a shit about what or why. He just wants to get revenge, and he's just going to do whatever it takes to get there. Here he is. This guy starts begging for his life, and I love the famous scene where, or the famous part of this scene where Nicolas Cage like grabs the dude's head and smashes it in his own hands. Just like that was it. It kind of delivers. Like so many movies don't. They prep you, and then you have a huge ending, and then they, whether it feels like satisfying or not, this movie definitely does. Like it for sure. The entire movie leading up to that point, he literally like grabs his head and smashes it. It's great. It's great. And he walks away, sets it on fire, imagines his wife, and then this. Look at him now. Yeah, he imagines her there, and he's got his creepy, just happy to be. He's just going psycho at this point. There he is on his way back home. And then for some reason, they include a shot like this. I believe that's the entire movie. Yep, there we go. We're back at the beginning. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you saw what I liked about this movie. Anything at all, I'm open to any feedback. I will apparently keep on doing this kind of stuff, even though not many people watch. I don't do it for the views. I find myself like constantly checking how many views. But then I have to stop myself and go, no, I just enjoy making content like this. Like I would love this if more people saw this, liked it, resonated with it, and I just will keep on making it. Obviously I want to make it better tailored, but I'm gonna keep doing it regardless. So thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for being part of the channel. Thank you for in advance if you liked it, subscribed. If this was the video that drew you in, that you want to see more, if you want to go see past footage, I've got almost 100 videos at this point on stuff like this and a bunch of other stuff. So thank you so much, and I will see you guys around for the next episode. Bye.